Come on in, you guys. Welcome to a walk and talk. This is now becoming a weekly pattern where I go live and I get to talk to you guys here on Instagram Live about anything and everything. I have all kinds of things up in my head that are always swirling that I want to talk about. And so I walk on my trail. If you guys followed me in the fall, I did the Stay-Batical to 50 and I would walk this trail. It's right at 4 miles. So walk 2 miles, turn around, walk 2 miles back. Takes me about an hour and change to do that. So what better way? And on a big, beautiful, look at the big bright sunshine today. It's 55 degrees here in South Kakalaki. And so it's a perfect day for a walk and a talk. So you guys say you like these, and so I will keep doing them as long as you keep liking them. But I want to bring up a topic today that has really been weighing heavy on my heart. And it really started weighing heavy on me in 2020. When all the everything broke loose in our country with all the burning and the looting and the rioting and all the everything that came out from that, and the division that ensued, and some of the tone changes that started happening on a public basis, and then some of the messages that have come out. And it's still really not dissipated here 2 years later. And I want to tell you what brought this to mind. So earlier this week, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and we were having a conversation. And I said something in the conversation to which this person replied, "Well, that's your white privilege coming out." And I was like, "I'm sorry, my what?" She said, "Yeah, you have white privilege, so of course you can say that." So I, wanting to have a conversation, and this is somebody I trust and know, wanting to have a conversation, I said, "Okay, what if I told you there is no such thing as white privilege?" Oh my gosh, that started us on a little rabbit hole of having a discussion. And of course, we respect each other enough that I said, "Okay, tell me what you mean." And she said, "Well, you've had advantages in society that people of other races have not. So therefore you have privilege and you need to acknowledge your privilege." Okay, great. I hear you on that. I said, "Do you realize when you say things like that, you're immediately dividing people more? Do you realize that the more you tell white people that they have privilege and black people that they are oppressed, that you're keeping that very thing you want to end, the division between those two groups, you're keeping that divide intact? Because as long as a white person is being told that you have privilege simply because of the color of your skin, and a black person is told you are oppressed because of the color of your skin, how do we get anywhere? How do we ever progress? How do we get beyond the division?" And I even made the argument that a lot of the so-called privilege that she was attributing to white people is actually the privilege of class, socioeconomic, those who make a lot of money versus those who don't. I said, a lot of the things that you're describing as far as the problems in the world and the division, it has more to do with that difference than it does along racial lines. And so that got my wheels to turning, you guys. And why I wanted to talk about it here on the Walk and Talk is we have to stop dividing ourselves along these arbitrary lines. Like, there is literally nothing about the pigment of my skin or about who I am beyond my character. And this was the other thing I brought up to this friend. I would much rather look at the character of the person and see what kind of person they are. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what nationality they are. I don't care what gender they are. All I care about is, are they a good person? Do they have good things in their heart? Do they have contributions to society? And if they do, then they're my people. And And if you have destructive means about you, you're not my people. I don't understand this notion that we keep pushing about racial inequities and all that. And look, I get it. We've had a sordid history, especially here in America, where things have not always been that great for certain people. And I admit that. I think we all admit that. We all know that. But we're in a much better place today. And there's more opportunities today to literally be whatever you want to be in the United States of America. That's the beauty of our country. It's one reason so many people have pride in the United States is you can literally go from nothing to something if you just put your mind to it, your energy behind it, work at your craft at whatever you do. You can literally become anything. Anybody can become anything. And I hate this notion that a certain group of people are being told a lie that they will never get anywhere because they're oppressed. And this other group over here, they're going to get everything because they have privilege. That does no good. That is divisive language. It's telling people in one group, well, you should have it made in life. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of white people that have not got it made in life. There are a lot of white people that suffer and go through many of the same struggles of the oppressed. And so it's kind of funny to that group of people when they hear the whole so-called white privilege. They go, where's that privilege for me? If it's supposed to be giving me an advantage in society, why aren't I feeling it? And then you've got, on the opposite end, well, if you're a minority, you are oppressed. Well, tell that to people that have gotten out of the oppression. How did LeBron James become a household name? How did Denzel Washington become a household name? If the oppression is there that holds them back. And it's unfortunate that these things rile people up at an emotional level. And I get it. There's a lot of moving parts to why people feel so strongly about what they believe. There are people like this friend of mine that honestly believes white supremacy exists. And that white supremacy needs to be acknowledged. And we need to all be doing our part as white people to apologize for the sins of the past. And I'm going, okay, but when does that end? When are we finished apologizing? At what point do we come to a solution? And this was the thing I was trying to talk to her about. Take a big 30,000 foot view. And let's say, okay, we're going to resolve this issue, okay? Because my whole life we've dealt with racial tensions. We're going to resolve this issue. What do? Okay, white people acknowledge that they've had some kind of privilege in their life because of the socioeconomics of the past coming to the present. We acknowledge that the socioeconomic situation for minorities is such because of the past things. And I explained, we already have things in place that make it very easy for these people to kind of have an even playing field. Things like affirmative action, things like assistance from the government. Those are all in place to help. But then they continue to cry that we're divided. They continue to cry we're oppressed. They continue to cry that all the woes of the world are because white people are evil and we have privilege and we need to acknowledge it. And so it's like, it's maddening when you're trying to reach the point in society where you try to come back together as a cohesive bunch. Last time I checked, this is called the United states of America. And I think we've been the divided states of America, if I'm being honest, for much of the past, not just a couple of years, I would say 15 to 20 years. It really started right about the turn of the century, where the divisions in our country, not just along racial lines, but ideological lines, socioeconomic lines, they started being drawn. And most people, they're tired of it. They're tired of the division. But the problem is the people who have the megaphones, the people who are able to get online, get on television, get in other outlets like podcasts, they're expressing viewpoints that are not in line, I think, with the majority of the people in the world. I think some of these ideas like white supremacy, white privilege, oppression of minorities, I think those things are pushed by people who want to keep us divided. And it's what I was explaining to this friend the other day. The more we focus on racial divisions and other divisions like that, the less we see what is going on in the world with those who are pulling the strings. And they want us to all be at each other's throats so they can continue to do what they're going to do. And I'm sorry if that's a newsflash to you. Wake up. Look at what's happening. We have more in common. Black and white and brown, we have more in common with one another if we're in the same social class economically than we do not in common. And we have to let go of some of these divisive languages that are put out there. Stop calling white people white supremacists. Now, obviously, there are people that are horrible. There are racist people out there. Duh. I would say on both sides. I think there are racist white people and there are racist black people. There are. And the moment we don't acknowledge that it goes both ways on the fringe, you've already lost it. You have to acknowledge that first. But the vast majority of people are not racist. The vast majority of people just want to live in a peaceful society. We look at the character of the people we're in contact with. There are white people I absolutely want nothing at all to do with because their character shows me they're not the quality of human being I want to have in my life. They're not. And I know some amazing African American people in my life. And I connect with them. In fact, I just interviewed one on my podcast this week, a wonderful lady, Arlene Smith. She's at my local farmer's market. Her and her husband, Otis, have a little personal care, body scrub, and that kind of thing business. And I go and commiserate with them. They're my people. We connect on so many levels, on a human level. And it's beautiful. I saw a video this week that was picked up on one of the Ring video cameras where this 6-year-old boy had lost his football. He didn't know where it was. And so the next door neighbors' kids came over, probably 6 and 4 were their ages. And they were 2 African-American kids. And they brought the football to the 6-year-old white boy and said, "Hey, we found this. I think this is your football." And the boy who lost his football said, "Can I hug you? Like, I love you guys. Y'all are amazing." And it was just a microcosm of what I'm talking about here today. They didn't see race. They saw another human being. You saw appreciation for an act of kindness from another human being. And that's the world I want to live in. I'm tired of the division. I don't care about politics. I don't care about racial divisions. I don't care about any of the things that they're telling us we're supposed to pay attention to. I care about good people kind people, compassionate people, loving people. We can all be that. We can all live that. And the moment we stop living that, in my opinion, is the moment we stop being human. I do not want to lose my humanity at the holy altar of all the division that is being stoked. And it starts with forgiving one another for things that have happened and showing genuine compassion, kindness, and love. It's how I live my life. It's how I expect to be treated. And I'm sorry if this offended anybody, because that was not my intention. But I needed to share that I feel like so much of our division in the world today is made up, self-induced. We're not divided along racial lines. We're not divided if we don't want to be divided. We're not divided. I live here in South Carolina, and you don't see the kind of division that's caricatured in the media. You don't see that here. I open doors for people. They open doors for me. We don't, we tip our hat to one another. We don't worry about what color of skin we have. Black people don't say they're oppressed. White people aren't supremacists and have some kind of special powers of privilege. It just doesn't exist. And the moment we stop acknowledging those things and just live our lives in unity is the moment we can grow and come together and do amazing things together and get back to the United States of America. I remember watching a clip from the actor Morgan Freeman. He's got an amazing voice. I've always loved his voice, but he was interviewed by Charlie Rose, and Charlie Rose said, "So what can we do about racism in America?" And Morgan Freeman said, "We need to stop talking about it." And Charlie Rose is like, "What? You don't believe there's racism?" "Oh, I'm sure there's racist people, but the reason it's still on the minds of people is we keep talking about it. Just stop talking about it." And then he's like, "Well, what about Black History Month?" He's like, "It's the stupidest thing in the world," Morgan Freeman said. And then Morgan Freeman asked Charlie Rose, "Do you want a Jewish History Month?" "No." And he said, "Neither do I about Black History Month." And it's fascinating. Those kinds of concepts and voices aren't projected in the mainstream. I'll tell you something that's really helped me in this area is I stopped watching television. I unplugged my cable, my DirecTV, in March of 2020, right when all the everything in the world went crazy, because I knew what was coming. I turned it all off, and I can confidently tell you that I have had more peace in my heart from that action than I could have ever imagined. And I feel like so much of the angst is ginned up through propaganda that's disseminated on TV. And if that's news to you, welcome to the Matrix, because it's true. And I'm talking about from every angle. You watch one set of things that confirm your belief system, you're going to have it reinforced. You go to the other side, you're going to have it reinforced. And to what end? When do we end the division? When do we stop looking at each other as enemies? When do we start embracing the beauty in our differences? Like, look, if the whole world was full of people like Jimmy Moore, God help us, by the way, but if the whole world had people just like me, I don't think that would be a very interesting world at all. But what makes the world interesting is you've got people like me and people like you, and we're all from different backgrounds, and we all have different belief systems, and we've all had different life experiences. And when you put those people together, yes, you're going to sometimes have conflict, but conflict doesn't have to turn to ugliness. Conflict doesn't have to turn to division. Conflict doesn't make us mortal enemies. Conflict merely is, okay, tell me about what you believe. And then I'll tell you what I believe. And then hopefully we have a better understanding of where we're coming from our respective angle. Good morning. So, I know I'm being a little long-winded, but I had to get out these concepts that a lot of this division that we have is unnecessary. A lot of it is ginned up by other people. I don't think most people want to be divided. I don't see any good that comes from division, especially along racial lines. There is no good at promulgating that message. All it does is continue angst, continue animosity, and as we have seen, lead to violence and destruction. And I don't want that in the world. I don't want that in America. It serves no good purpose at all. Good morning. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. If you just joined in, this is my walk and talk. I'm going to try to do these about once a week, usually on the weekends when my helter-skelter life of the week slows down. I do 4 podcasts a week, so it's very busy during my week. Plus, I'm recording new podcasts. I've been writing on a book, so the weekend's usually when I try to chill out and wind down, and I can bring you guys along for my walk on the weekend. So that's what we're doing here. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Do you agree with me that we need to end the division and start offering up forgiveness and love and kindness and compassion to one another? Doesn't that seem so obvious? Doesn't that seem like the perfect solution to everything that's wrong in the world right now? I think so, but I want to hear what you have to say. All right, let's see who's here. Hello, everybody. V4 Beauty Art says, I love this outlook. Lead with love. That's all that matters. Hey, love conquers all, as the Bible says. And whether you're a Christian or not, that's the truth. Love conquers all. And if you can't love your fellow human, I would argue you're not human. Because humans are meant to love one another and support one another and give each other all the respect that they deserve. I just did a reel today about a lot of the hate comments that I get, and lots of interesting feedback from that. But I was talking about all the things that I get from people, and I mean, sometimes it's ruthless, just ugly. And I always challenge those people when they write me things like that. Hey, what's going on in your life that you feel like you need to lash out at a stranger on the internet? I think the problem with someone like myself is I'm on camera a lot, I'm on a podcast a lot, so people think they know me, and therefore, well, I know who you are because I see you online, and therefore I can lash out at you. And it's like, no, you sure can't. But they try, they sure try. Bulletproof says, yes, privilege is from socioeconomic status. It is. A poor white person doesn't have privilege compared to a rich minority. Yeah. And I would argue that the poorer white person is poor because of their choices in life educationally, and because they did not apply themselves, not across the board. There will be exceptions to all this, but they didn't apply themselves. They didn't work hard at some craft to get good at what they could so they could have a good paying job. And the person who is a rich minority, they didn't just get rich. Despite their oppression, the so-called oppression that they had, they were able to overcome it, apply themselves, move up in education and in life and through the ranks of their career to get to that point. And so you're right. I mean, I hate to be so blunt like that because I know the narrative is If you're black, you're oppressed, and if you're white, you're privileged. But that just divides us, and it does no good. And I don't even like the division along socioeconomic either. Good morning. And so we're vilifying the rich people, not realizing that those people almost invariably got their wealth because they worked hard for it. Yes, there are some who inherit, and I get that. But most people who make their money make it from the ground up, from nothing. But then society says, oh, we need to extra tax the rich because they're so wealthy. Not realizing that that wealth came with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Not realizing that that wealth is now going to be used to employ people and provide a step up for someone else who is in a lower socioeconomic. So I don't even like the divisions about pitting the rich against the poor. That's never set well with me either. Bulletproof says, what about skinny privilege? Oh, growing up overweight is one of the most discriminatory ways to live. Fat people are always discriminated in every part of society. You're right. If you're skinny, you're assumed to be healthy. And if you're fat, you're assumed to be at great unhealth. I can't tell you how many people write to me on a daily basis. And they're like, when are you going to die of a heart attack already? I'm not kidding you. They will say it that bluntly. You're going to have a heart attack any day now. And I'm like, wow, good morning to you too. And I just I shake my head. But that is true, very true. Skinny privilege. Sad but true. NPR recently did a stupid article about racism in the color emoji we use. Yeah, I saw the thumbs up, I guess. And if you use the yellow thumbs up, it means that you're not acknowledging your whiteness. I think they just make shit up after a while because they're just bored. What I would say is go to Apple and say, why is the default the Homer Simpson thumb? The big yellow. Because they're the one that made that the default. They could have defaulted to any other. Or they could say, on one of the settings, they could set it up, hey, what color would you prefer to be in your emojis? And then it would default all the emojis to have that color, if that's what you care about. I don't care. Like, I don't use emojis to express my whiteness or express anything other than if I have a thumbs up, it's a thumbs up. It has nothing to do with the color. It's weird. We live in victim culture. Everyone wants an excuse for why they can't get this or can't get that. With that mindset, they will never get what they want. You can't always get what you want. Smilerista says generational trauma healing doesn't know color. Exactly. And I would say a lot of the generational trauma in the minority community is deep because of our sordid history. And so we need to be kind towards that, compassionate towards that. And I think offering a breaking of the cycle of that trauma. And look, a lot of individuals are breaking that cycle individually in their families. But the vast majority, you're right, still have that generational trauma that has been passed down for not just decades, but centuries. And so helping them break that, I think, would be a very valiant effort. Not sowing the division still by telling them they're oppressed. Okay, your ancestors, yes, they were quite oppressed. But today you have more opportunities in the United States of America than in any country you could possibly live in. More opportunities here. So if we're systemically racist and there's white privilege and all this, how is it possible, turn it around, how is it possible for you to get ahead here, whereas in other countries it would not be as easy? It's a question I've asked a lot. Haven't heard a good answer to. We all got work to do from the inside out, always. The moment you stop working on yourself is the moment you've given up. And I don't think giving up is an option for anybody. I don't care who you are, what race you are, what gender you are. You have the ability to rise up from the ashes from whatever situation you're in your life. You have the capability to become whatever you want to become. And look, yes, it will mean sacrifices. Yes, it will mean hard work. Yes, it will sometimes be hard. And yes, you will probably want to give up 1,000,000 times in the midst of it. That's all part of it. And that's why people don't usually pursue that. It's a lot easier to say, oh, well, I'm oppressed in my life, and so therefore, that's why my life sucks. And then guess what? That mentality makes your life suck. And so then you say, see, I was oppressed. I never got anywhere in life. And I'll say, see, you never got anywhere in life and you felt oppressed because you never did anything. Bridging the arguments is so key to bringing an end to this division. It's a tough one, that's for sure. Bulletproof says the same people who want equity have been behind all the Asian hate, blocking Asian admissions into college. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, but it's ancillary to this. It's why when you don't have an open society of ideas and you only allow certain ideas to be heard and then you silence and censor other ideas, people only believe the things that they see. And so if it's not on television, I remember earlier I was talking about propaganda pieces. If it's not on television, then people don't believe it's happening. And so that's unfortunate. That also sows a lot of the division. If you don't have all the facts about a situation, you can't come to a good conclusion without all those facts. Now, thankfully, we have the internet. And if you have even a gumption of curiosity, you can go look things up on your own. You can go find the information that runs counter to what you've heard. I hardly ever believe anything that I read from one source. If I read something from one source and it seems weird, I always go, what's the rest of that story? And I'll go seek out the rest of the story. And I'll go look for other information from a variety of angles. If I came to some kind of a belief the first time I'm exposed to something, I go, okay, let me look for something that challenges my belief. This is what cognitive thinking is about, you guys. We have far too many people, and this is part of the division. We have far too many people that listen to talking points, and they focus solely on talking points that reinforce what they already believe. I want to encourage you to get outside your comfort zone, stop listening to the echo chamber of what you already believe, and start looking for things that run counter to what you believe. Because you'll be surprised when you do that, how much of your belief system is true and how much of your belief system may have some flaws in it, may have some potential, that don't seem right. And that's where you grow in your knowledge, grow in your wisdom, and become a better thinker. I know it's not in vogue to think for yourself these days, but it's critical. We all need to be thinkers. We all need to analyze things. We all need to be slow to reaction. This is what made 2020 so frustrating, was there would be a 10-second clip of a video posted online and everybody would react to the clip, not realizing that when you looked at the 30-second clip, you see a totally different narrative than what that 10-second clip showed. And yet, in the meantime, riots, burning, looting, killing, all took place, all under the guise of a lie. And that's where the division lies. I don't know how we stop that. I don't know how that is prevented. It's always going to happen. Smilerista says, what's funny to me is that if you're white, you're known as American, not European American, but every other race has African American, Asian American, and U.S. natives who were here are called Native Americans. I've heard Anglican Americans, but you're right. That is interesting, which is why I've never liked African American, Asian American, because again, it puts race back at the forefront and divides us along those lines. I don't care what color you are. If you're an American citizen, you're American. We don't need to be divided by that. Now, the argument would be, well, we have a culture in the African American community that is separate from white America. Okay, cool. Celebrate your culture, but you're still an American. The distinction there, I think, just continues to divide us. So that's a good point. All right, crossing the streets. Not too bad with the traffic today. I like walking on Saturdays and Sundays. I enjoy your talks, Jimmy, on your walk. I'm off to regulate my parasympathetic nervous system. Yes, please do. Relax and chill out this weekend. A lot of stress in the world. It's good to let all that stuff go. Now we have mask privilege, where the hokey pokey and mask extremists get to unmask while the rest of us don't. Well, again, another topic for another day. But yes, we have been divided along those lines. Those who wear one, those who don't, those who get the hokey pokey, those who don't. I'm just over the division, guys. Refuse to participate anymore. Hello, Sharon. Thanks for being here. Kira says, I'm not ready to forgive. I was criticized for my beliefs over the past 2 years. Not ready yet. Same for all that condemn my keto carnivore life. Look, I get that. And when I say offer forgiveness and love, I mean, look, I get it. It's got to be reciprocal. But it has to start somewhere. We can't end division until everybody agrees the division is bad. Until everybody agrees the division doesn't serve a good purpose. The moment we acknowledge that the division is not healthful or helpful, is the moment that we can move past it. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish. A rich minority can get college financial aid help. A poor white one doesn't. Well, I'll disagree with you there. A poor white person, if they get good grades, can get a Pell Grant, get all kinds of scholarships. But there are specific scholarships that are affirmative action scholarships where they say if an equal academic white person and black person apply for the same scholarship, that they will prefer the black person. And I guess that's what you're describing as discrimination. Look, I'm okay with giving those kinds of things. And it's one of those things that I feel like, okay, I'm willing to meet halfway if we can end with all the nonsense about privilege and the nonsense about white supremacy. If we could end all that, I'm okay with still giving some preferential treatment to help even the playing field. I think most people who achieve in life, they didn't achieve because they got a hand up. They achieved because they applied themselves and went and got what they wanted. That's the American dream. It's the American way. And so I would disagree with you on that one, buddy. We're all human. We shouldn't be distinguishing. You're right about that. Del Norte, thanks for the badge, my bud. Appreciate that. As always, if you guys like the content, there is a little logo down there for you to buy a badge if you like what I do, not just here on the Walk and Talk, but all my ice bath videos, my podcast interviews. Helps me out. Appreciate that. Gabby says, ever since the Rockefellers started manipulating the education system in the 1900s, they started teaching America as a country, not as a continent. I don't think it's people's fault. We've been indoctrinated. Yeah, and I had Dr. Rimka on yesterday saying the same thing about the medical system, that the Rockefellers were very influential in creating the drug, pharmaceutical kind of era and doing things that are less than ideal for health. They saw big money and big medicine. So, yeah. And look, when you open your eyes to these kinds of things, it definitely changes how you look at the world. And I just refuse, guys, to participate in division. I refuse to let anybody else determine how I think and believe. We all have that power within us to do the things that we know to do. And what choices other people make, that's not really our business. If they choose to divide, if they choose to believe that white people are privileged, that black people are oppressed, if they have that worldview, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. If that's what you believe, it is. It is what you believe. It's wrong. And we're not going to get anywhere. And society's going to be stuck in a stalemate. We're going to be 30 years down the road, and we're still going to be talking about how white supremacy is holding people back. That doesn't do anything in a society, in a civilized society, except create chaos, stir people up emotionally. And look, I can't imagine what it's like to be a black person in America. I can't. There's no way for me to put myself in that position. But if I was in that position, I would hope somebody would throw me a bone and give me hope that there can be better days. Not tell me that I'm oppressed. Not tell me that I'll never get anywhere in life because Big Whitey is coming to get you. I would hope that somebody would say, you know what? You live in the United States of America, and you can go be whatever it is you want to be in your life. All you have to do is get out there, go after it. The opportunities await you. Go apply yourself and go become whatever you want to become. And you'd be surprised when you meet real people in real life how many of us don't like the division. How many of us want to end the division. How many of us are willing to say, you know what? Please forgive me. for all the things that might have happened in the past. I don't know what happened, so forgive my ancestors. I love you today. I stand by you. I put my arm around you. Let's move together as people. Because until we do that act, you guys, ain't nothing gonna change. And the people who stoke this division, they know that. The people who keep the division going, they realize they don't want it to end. They don't want the races to get along. They want the division to keep going, because as long as we're fighting each other, they can get away with whatever they're working on. And that's not a conspiracy theory. It's fact, guys. And this is what was on my heart today. I'm really happy that I got to get this out here today on this walk and talk. Do you plan to start another fast soon? I know you had mentioned it said bulletproof. So, yes, I have plans to do another fast soon. I don't know how soon. I was working on this company that makes a ketone ester. I was working on seeing if I could use their esters for my next fast to see if there's any difference from water and salt fasting. So I'm having discussions with them right now. And so if I can work something out with them, I'd rather do it with them. But definitely by March, I will be ready to fast again. But guys, thank you so much for watching today's walk and talk. I know it's a little bit controversial. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. They don't really want to talk about this kind of thing. I talk about all the things, as you guys know. And I feel like if we're ever going to move forward in the world, we've got to get this under control. And so hopefully I gave you some things to think about. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm going to get out of here. It's actually a little bit warm now. I'm actually breaking a sweat here in February. Whew. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you at the ice bath at 5 p.m. Eastern time here on Instagram Live. And until then, I'll see you then.